Thank you for all for being here. We appreciate it very much. For this regularly scheduled meeting of the Friendswood Downtown Economic Development Corporation, it is September the 10th. It is 4 o'clock. And this is a timely group. We move things right along and get things done, and we appreciate that greatly. And I will say, you two, Mr. Todd, Dr. McGinnis, you get to sit through another meeting because we're going to celebrate you near the end. But as you know, our agendas are usually pretty short, and we don't waste time. So here we go. Our meeting is called to order, and I'm excited that everybody's here. It is an opportunity now for anyone that would like to address the board from the public to be able to come up and speak to us. Mayor Foreman.
Well, thank you, Dr. Hillenberg. I couldn't let this day pass without saying something because I am the last remaining city council member that was sitting when this corporation was appointed.
Wow.
January of 2017, Trey, Rebecca, Paul, Ron, you were all appointed as these two gentlemen were, along with Bubba Johnson, and it was an interesting time because the voters had voted this 4B sales tax, as you know, and the state law said, well, you have to have a 7-member board, and it could be city council. But we said, no, we don't want it to be city council. We got enough stuff. So let's get some smart residents, forward-thinking people in here and throw them all together and see how that works out. And, then Kevin Holland, the mayor, said, well, does anybody have an idea for how we pick these people? And somebody said, well, there's 7 of us. We need 7 of them. Why don't each of us pick one? So we all threw our names in a hat, and somehow none of us threw the same name in, and we came up with these 7 names. So I'm very proud of the fact that we did that because you all, not you two, but these other people, you two are coming on. Flash, Scott, thank you for taking this appointment because great things to come. But you guys have done just a myriad things and amazing work. And it was a slow go at the first, but we powered through that, and the leadership on this team, you put your heads together and didn't look back, and look at what we have now. It's just, we're so proud. So keep up the great work. Sorry to see Alton and Pat go, but I think, it's great to have fresh blood on the board also. So you guys, high praise for everything that you did, especially pulling the team together. Pat, you were leading it. Alton, did you lead it for a year or two?
Yep.
So everybody shares the blame a little bit because everybody was in charge for a little bit of the time. But no, you guys did great work, so there's no blame to be discussed. But I'm just so proud to have had a hand in starting this organization and watching it go. So that's all I wanted to say. How's my timer? Oh, it didn't even start.
I don't know that anybody started it. We're just letting.
Good move.
You're the mayor. You can go. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Foreman. And we have. It's not my place yet, but I'll say it later. I'll wait because it's still the public's turn to communicate, not mine. So would anyone else like to address the board at this time? Okay, hearing none, the public communication part is closed of our meeting. It is now ready for 3A, which is to consider the approval of the minutes of FDEDC from the meeting held August the 13th. And that was the meeting we welcomed again, Scott McKenzie and Chris Richardson, and we're very glad they're part of our group. We've all had a chance to read the minutes and have a chance to study them. Corrections, concerns, questions? Hearing none, what is the wish of the board?
Move approval. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. The minutes are approved. We're now going to 4A, which is the discussion and possible action for considering the adoption of the proposed FDEDC Corporation fiscal year 2025 budget. Stephen, I'm going to turn this over to you, Mr. Ray.
Yes, ma'am, and hopefully I made the borrow your glasses, but I think I can see this from here. I do have an abnormally
We
large
have
monitor.
seen it.
I'd like to point
We
out.
have seen
I
it.
mean, this was provided in your backup material, and thankfully this board's budget is fairly simple compared to the city's overall budget that is put together by the city's finance team. So just to run through real quick, this is for next fiscal year. So this is 2025. The proposed budget of note, you'll see here that the expenditures really are not all a very high amount, and that's due to the fact that there's no projects planned out just yet for next fiscal year, and any encumbrances were for this current fiscal year being carried over. The projected total revenue, both sales tax and interest for FY25 is just a tad bit over $883,000 for the year. And as I mentioned with the expenditures, the $16,000 is just the basic expenditure to city staff to help cover our participation in the meetings and any printouts. The increase in your fund balance overall for next year is looking at $865,189 with a proposed ending fund balance projected for around this time next year of $2.95 million. So $2,953,247 for next fiscal year.
Thank you for that, Mr. Rice.
And so as this is the proposed budget for next year, I will need an action taken on this.
And I think, and thank you, Alton and Pat, for being here to hear this. Seeing that number was one we dreamed about. So it opens up all kinds of possibilities to see that. Any comments or questions on the proposed budget?
I just have one quick question, and it may be just in general, the funding based, the ending balance next year is based on historical averages?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Does it consider any kind of growth or increase in businesses and or population, or is it just over the last X number of years, this is the average?
It is the past 3 years based upon the averages as they move forward.
Okay.
So it doesn't necessarily take into account a new business coming on this year versus a couple years ago. It's just the sales tax collected and the projected out for the next fiscal year.
Okay, so highly likely that we'll have more than this?
Correct.
It's potential, yes, sir.
No, highly likely.
Highly likely,
That's
yes,
what I
sir.
heard, yeah, thanks.
I like those words.
True
Highly likely.
optimist, true optimist.
All right, we want that. All right, any other comments or questions? Hearing none, this is an action item. What is the wish of the board?
I'll make a motion, we approve the 2025 proposed budget.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The budget is passed, and that's a very nice budget. Thank you. B is to consider approving a professional services agreement with UP Art Studio, LLC, for Keep Friendswood Beautiful Electrical Box Artwork Project. This is one that was introduced to us last month, and as you remember by our procedures, we don't take action on during the month that a project is presented to us. We have the month or 2 months or however long it is till we decide to bring it back for an action item. We have decided to bring this as an action item, and is there any discussion, comments, or questions? And is KFB, I think I see Mr. Tony back there, and others, if they want to come up to the podium for any part of our discussion, please feel free. All right? Comments, questions?
I have a question. Say we approve this, $30,000, and several months go by and TxDOT changes their mind. What would happen in that case?
That's above my pay grade.
So while you can't,
They're getting
well,
up.
while you can't necessarily predict what TxDOT may come back with, we do have their confirmation, and it has been done in other municipalities. We don't anticipate that happening.
So I do have a related question to that, and then I've got another one. We're kind of thinking about responsibilities. TxDOT turns over the responsibilities of the traffic signals after a certain population to the city. So some of the cities that we see that have those painted boxes, those boxes are under the jurisdiction and control of that particular city because they're large enough. We're not at that level yet. So what sort of formal approval are you going to get from TxDOT that ensures us that it's not going to assure us that they don't change their mind,
That's where I was going.
but that we're okay doing what we're doing?
So the city does have a maintenance agreement with TxDOT, and so we would like to incorporate this into that maintenance agreement as well.
Okay, so it's not approved as of yet.
Correct, not within the maintenance agreement. We do have confirmation from TxDOT, whether it's verbal or in writing via email, that this is an okay project.
So would we make these approvals subject to the approval of TxDOT? Would we make this recommendation, at least to the council, subject to the approval of TxDOT? And then we would wait to do anything with regard to the contract with the artist until we get the contract, until we get the approval from TxDOT. Can we do that?
Yes, that should not be a problem. We can word the agreement back to council that because ultimately this does have to go back to city council
Right.
for approval.
Right.
We can work the agreement to state that the funding will be approved pending TxDOT's approval. That should not be an issue.
Okay. So I have a little different question, and I wasn't clear on this when the staff made the presentation at the last meeting, and that is why is Keep Friendswood Beautiful asking this, making this request of FDEC? Because if the Keep Friendswood Beautiful has gotten grants in the past, they do have funding for other kinds of things. What makes this what makes it important for us to be the funding source for this? Is there a but for? Is there's something but for the funding here, it can't be done, I suppose? Is there some good explanation as to why this board is being asked to make that recommendation?
Well, quite simply, it was brought to KFB to champion this request and this project. KFB does have a budget, but they don't have the funding to handle something this large. So obviously, we thought since this was part of a downtown project that, quite frankly, we would just pitch the idea to you guys to see if it would be something that you would be willing to take on. And I think there was some discussions in y'all's initial decisions about beautifying the downtown, and that was something that was talked about early on. So we just wanted to bring it back to you to see if that's something that you guys wanted to help support the idea of moving this forward.
Would you abandon the idea without this board's funding?
We would not. We would try some other avenues. I mean, we think it's something that we think is vital for the community and something that would definitely beautify the downtown area. So we would just put it on the back burner until we were able to find a funding source.
I do notice that I grew up in Pasadena, but you've got 3,000 per box, 12 boxes, so that's $6,000 that you are committed. If I did that right, you are committed to the project. Is that correct?
We're committed to the project because it was brought to us
No, I'm just doing the math. You're
Okay.
asking for $30,000 on $30,000 on a $36,000 project.
No, sir.
No.
So they're asking for 36,000.
36,000.
Yes, sir.
Disregard.
Yeah.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
A little
So
more clarity.
I will make mention, and just for Scott and Chris, just historically, due to the within the Lauren Griffith plan, there is items specifically called out for public art, which this group has provided funding for previously. And last year's projects moving forward, as the board was trying to anticipate what they may want to fund in the future, this item was brought forward. Simultaneously, KFB had taken up that mantle to try to see if they could wrangle TxDOT and see what the next steps would be. So it dropped off the EDC's radar as KFB took it over. And so this is KFB now knowing that this board once previously looked at projects similar, that they would bring it back.
Councilmember Hanks, I saw you stand and I didn't get a chance to recognize you. Would you like to contribute?
Well, I just talked to Tony. I think he can repeat it.
Yeah, so the question about the boxes citywide. So if we are allowed to have funding, receive funding from you guys to handle the downtown, then KFB will take the initiative to try and fund the rest of the boxes throughout the city and utilize various businesses to help sponsor those boxes that may be near their particular business. So the plan is to outfit all of the traffic boxes here in the city of Friendswood.
I'm just curious, do we know that number of boxes? I'm sorry to put you on the spot like
yeah.
that, Mr. Tony.
No, we don't know the total number. Does anybody remember? No, total
The city.
citywide. Do we know?
Okay.
Yeah, there's quite a bit. Yeah, there's
A lot. Thank
There's
you.
a lot. Yeah,
All right. I mean, it's a big commitment, is what I'm
it
saying.
is, and it
By
will
my
take some
question.
time. Yeah,
So it's a lot more than just the number of the downtown.
correct.
You want me to say anything?
Sure.
Okay, so
Go
no,
ahead.
Just stand up here. This is your deal. So KFB was going to start with downtown because there was a funding source, and then sell it hopefully to other places, even near a school, as with a Mustang, or other parts of the city in Harris County, and to try to find some funding sources for those things. But there's not a ready pot of money for this except for downtown. And so that's where we said, let's start it downtown, let everybody see it, see how well it goes over, then it could expand throughout the city.
Thank you. Appreciate the explanations. Has that helped with any clarification for anybody?
It has for me, and I do appreciate Stephen bringing up and referring back to the plan. Dr. Pat, I can't see
That's
your face.
mine, Dr.
I
Pat.
can't.
That is mine. I put laid claim to that.
All right. So one of the things that we've tried to do is stick with the plan. And I don't want to, just because all of the original board members are no longer here, Pat was our champion of sticking with the plan. So I'm glad he was here today to hold it up. And so the fact that public art was in the plan helps me to kind of overcome some hesitancy on my part. Here's the hesitancy that I have, and I've said this probably from the very beginning. I don't want this board to be the bank with free gifts to distribute to anybody that needs them, that has a good little project out there. I want it to be a part of a consistent plan of action that we have, because we've got a plan that's much bigger than even the $3 million that we're projecting. And so we need to kind of protect that. And that's the reason I think that we came up with the policy to have the presentation in advance, to have a written application. And I'm going to say that the PowerPoint last month was the written application. I'll be happy with that. But to give us some time to think about how that fits in. And in fact, I think in the future, if we can if we can have a written statement that says, this is why we need it, this is consistent with the plan, and then make that recommendation, I think it'd be a lot better for us to be able to weigh in, and it will keep others from just keeping us thinking of us as free money out there to get for any reason that they want it. Not that KFB has done that. I don't want to imply that they have, but I don't want the next person to say, well, they gave that money, so let's just go ask them, and I'm sure they will, and then we're all of a sudden being put in an awkward position maybe about something that we wouldn't want to fund. That's just my speech for the day.
Well, no, we need more. Ron, continue your input. But one of the things that Stephen has mentioned is having a uniform application,
Right.
that whomever would come to us first would put it on paper so that we would see a consistent form, and we would keep that as the record so we could look back to make sure that we are sticking with the goals of the plan or whatever the plan is at that time. And so I thought that was a great idea.
I think that'd be great.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Everything you said's right. Our first request when we used to meet at the old library was from an individual who was developing a building here, and they requested, I don't know how good y'all's memory is, it was an informal request. They asked us to use some of our funds to relocate some poles for a project they're going to develop, if y'all remember. And that's when we knew, holy cow, this is going to just end up being, they got a bunch of money, why don't we get this? So it had nothing to do with city, it had to do with commercial development. That was the first request we got for outside funding, and we've had others. Now, I will say that group is pretty much part of this group and on the overall project. And I believe they've spent some of their money on some of our projects in downtown. So I am in support of this, but I 100% agree that I don't want this board, and I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be here, but this does not need to be, go down there, they got money, let's figure out how to help them spend it. Because I know that budget's really impressive, and that $3 million sounds like a cool number. Not when you're facing burying those power lines. It's not that impressive based on that job. So, and Pat McGinnis was the master, and I admire him to the day. He's still carrying the thing in his hand. I saw him last Sunday. He had it in his hand.
I know it.
That guy, I was telling Scott who he was. I go, that guy sticks to the plan. He's a NASA doctor. That guy's on target, and that gentleman right there is just fantastic. But anyway, we need to stay to the knitting, but to be honest with you, what I remember was we had signage and we had some things outside the deal, and I know it's $36,000, but I think we could make a short-term immediate impact because some of our other projects are much longer leashed. And so for that reason, I am going to move that we put it to a vote, but I 1,000% respect what you're saying.
I do too, Ron. Definitely. We don't want to become the bank, like you said very succinctly. And we want to be an opportunity for downtown. We want to stay with our plan, and we want to keep ourselves focused on what we need to accomplish for Friendswood.
Trey, just to clarify, and based on what Ron said, are you saying move based on text dot approval or pending text dot approval?
When I make the motion, I'm going to pin it contingent upon a couple of factors.
Very good. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm waiting for the debate to be done.
Any other comments or questions? I think the debate is done.
Contingent upon TxDOT approving that we could actually paint the things. And our recommendation goes to city council, and they too also approve of it, because we don't approve spending the money, we make recommendations. I move to approve the funding of the professional services agreement of UP Art Studios LLC for the Keep Friendswood Beautiful Electrical Box Artwork Project.
Second.
I'll second.
Give it to Paul. Any other comments or questions? Concerns. We also can have concerns. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. 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 All opposed? The motion is passed 6-0. Excited to see it go forward, KFB. Thank you. And we have enough.
James, make sure when you paint on stainless, it's hard to make it into here. Make sure those guys understand. You know what I mean? It's got to be cool feeling on.
All right. With that, we're now to our reports.
Yes, ma'am. And I will be quick, knowing that there are refreshments outside. So just quickly, there hasn't been a whole lot of movement on the 518 illumination project here in the last month or so. Some of that due to weather, some of that just due to some time needed to get line locates called in. So Pfeiffer & Sons is continued to prepare to mobilize to get back out and start on foundation work again. As mentioned, the weather conditions have caused a slight delay, and the utility line location markings have been requested. Related to this, and not shown here, we have discussed multiple times having some of the, at minimum, the low-hanging utility lines removed, along with up to the entire downtown overhead lines removed and buried. I have asked our engineering department to go ahead and begin looking for professional services, somebody that can do a project turnkey to work with the different stakeholders, whether it's TNMP and others, to make sure that this is all done the correct way instead of trying to be piecemealed by those of us, myself, that is not a professional when it comes to doing this type of work. And so as soon as something is available to bring back to the board, I will do so.
So I've got a question. So you're saying that instead of doing, relocating Comcast and then AT&T, you want to do them all at the same time?
Yes, sir. At a minimum, to see what our options are, as mentioned at the previous meeting, to where if we begin to bury and then others have the ability to come in behind them and either place new poles or place new lines, we want to make sure that we eliminate those risks as best we can. And so, as mentioned, our engineering department is beginning to look for professional services to find some folks to help us do that correctly.
Did they give any timeline as to when? Because I know we had this discussion last month, because this is dragged on for 50 years.
Correct.
These discussions keep
Timelines
going,
to-
and nothing ever happened. So we want to make sure that we keep the ball rolling.
Yes, sir. No, the ball is definitely rolling. Our engineering staff, like I mentioned, is searching for the proper folks that can help us do this, much like we did with the downtown project with the illumination, to make sure that we have folks that know what to bury, where to bury, and at what time to bury project wise. And this way we can involve all the stakeholders to make sure nobody can come in afterwards and kind of mess up what we've cleaned up.
Have they been in discussion with the same contacts that I had with Comcast and AT&T?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And if you don't mind, your knowledge in the downtown area as it pertains to a lot of those things is a massive help, and so we'll keep you in the loop most likely.
Okay.
Thank you.
And your name may be dropped.
Absolutely.
That's sort of what I heard in that, Stephen. So,
That's fine.
thank you.
Has AT&T been more responsive? I know we were talking about that last month. Have they?
Comcast is actually, they were the first to respond with an actual estimate to bury their lines, and they have as many as 2 of the low-hanging lines on there. AT&T took a while. Actually, we never really got an estimate from AT&T because they didn't think we were going to go through with it. So,
They gave us a band, a large amount.
Yes, ma'am.
right.
So, any other comments or questions about this?
I guess
Go ahead,
just
Ron.
just as a sort of a follow-up, seeing that budgeted amount that would be left over that's available, that does not include anything that's already been encumbered, as I heard you say, or I think you said, for the lighting project. So all of that's already encumbered, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
This
So
is new money that on the budget.
yes, sir. Those are the projected totals to the end of fiscal year 25, what you saw earlier.
Yeah.
In the next report, you will see the what we have basically in today's dollars that show that I think it's about $880,000 to $890,000.
Right.
That's totally encumbered.
Right. So I just want to make sure I understood that, because knowing that makes this idea of burying these lines much easier to bite into, because we always felt like it was out of our reach, especially when we first started the board and first started the budgets and started seeing the income. It just seemed like it was totally out of reach. Well, it's not out of reach at this point, at least for the low-hanging lines, if we can figure out a way to protect ourselves from the next group of folks that might come along. But as I said last month, and I still believe that to be the case, even if we were to get those lines down and get them buried, and we had to leave the high lines up, and we couldn't prevent somebody else from putting a line up there, who's left to do that? What's the practical response that we might get? We might get Comcast that got mad at us and say, well, we're going to hang a line up there anyway. Well, it would be a line this big instead of this big, and held together by duct tape, it seems like, or zip lines, zip ties. But I'm really encouraged about this opportunity that we've got, and that is in the plan, Dr. Pat.
It is.
And
And that's in Mr. Todd's dreams too.
There you go.
For I won't say how many years, but lots of years.
So I'm going to back up a little bit because we have a lot of the council members here, and I'm pretty sure y'all stay up at night and watch these over, so you're up to date with everything we're doing. If we drop the power line, the utility lines. I'm talking about Comcast and AT&T off the poles. Theoretically, we have a problem that they could come back the next year and hang them right back up, because they could agree that we do it and they could put them back. Y'all are shaking your heads. Maybe you did know that. I didn't know you knew that. But you're totally on board, and I know we're going to have to figure out how to do that. And I don't know if that could be done through some type of city ordinance where we say on this day, I'm getting, that's not helping me. So that, I didn't know if that was possible, but if we take the lines down, we're trying to figure out how to close the door behind us, or it's pointless, and it's serious, serious money. The budget is critical, and that is a forecast budget. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. It could go up or it could go down, probably go up. For those of you that are following along on a monthly basis, our revenue stream's about double what it was when we started. When we first started, we didn't have much money to pay attention, to be frank with you. And through blessings of a grant and improvements in revenue, I know that's real money. I'm not saying it's not, but that budget tells us how we can forecast on what we can bite off, because we can only bite off so much in a certain amount of time, or it's just a dream. But you can phase it and bite it off, and you're a smart guy. I don't care what Paul said about you.
Yeah,
It just takes
Just
planning.
don't go too far with it.
It takes planning and working together.
Yep.
So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, we're gonna move to the next item on the agenda. And there it is. It's already up, the financial report. This is our financial report of standing now. Mr. Ray, would you
Yes, ma'am.
just sort of,
So briefly,
Bring us up to date.
for the financial report for August 2024, the board began with a fund balance of $2,803,875 with a healthy revenue that includes sales tax and interest of $92,970. Very small expenditures for about $1,300 to city staff. And then the ending fund balance for August 2024 is $2,895,512 with an unencumbered fund balance of $2,044,033.
and on that editorial statement that I'm going to make, Dr. McGinnis, Mr. Todd, look at that budget. It's amazing. Thank you.
Yes,
Any
ma'am.
other comments or questions about the budget? All right, now we get to have our fun. And I'd like for all of us to come down front, please, as we get to acknowledge Mr. Todd and Dr. McGinnis. Because this is a team effort. And believe me, we need to call you and ask you questions for the team. Don't be surprised. Alton, Pat, you have given 7 years of your life to this committee and to the dedication of Friendswood. And this organization, and I know the city, greatly appreciates all that you have done and all you have given, not only in this one organization of FDEDC, but to all that you have done throughout the years, which has been much and greatly appreciated. So, may I read? They say the same thing, so I'll read from one. For your outstanding leadership and service to the Friendswood Downtown Economic Development Corporation, September 2016 to June 2024. Yeah, speaks volumes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. May I hug you, Pat? Alton? Thank you. No, I don't need to hug Pat twice. Thank you. I know that some of you have things that you would like to say. So, please, go ahead.
I think you guys are fantastic. I knew Dr. McGinnis, but I've never done anything really with him, and that man is dead on attention. Your focus and all that was fantastic, and you did a great job bringing us back to the board, and it still weighs with me today. And I sat with Alton, I just always admired Alton Todd. I think he's a classy man, And you were in on all of this attempt to do for many, many years before this was even a possibility. We had no funding. It was very difficult to do with no funding. And everything those lights, when they turned on, you played a role in that, you both have. And, thank you for your service.
And we hope you'll be there when we flip the switches.
You certainly should.
Hope it works.
Yeah.
That's not a question. Alton, don't say that.
Won't be on us.
Alton brings us back to reality. Ron.
Yeah, so let me also say thank you very much. Y'all's leadership has been outstanding on this board and in the community as a whole. Notwithstanding what anybody else may say in the room, but you've been very helpful. Alton, you and I worked on downtown plans together 25 years ago.
2020.
2020.
No,
Well,
2000.
2000, so that's 24 years ago. So pretty close to 25,
You were.
wasn't it? So, and many of the things that we're able to do now were talked about even then, and were in some folks' minds pipe dreams, but they're not. And so I appreciate your leadership and your wisdom through all of these years on downtown issues. And Pat, you've been so helpful to remind us to stick with the plan. That's probably the fourth time I've said it today, but we did the plan, which was most important. And then to be able to see the fruition of some of these things that have been outlined in that plan. And we've actually talked about in just the last few weeks, is it time to update that plan? You know, is it going to be something that we need to do fairly soon? But you've been a great help, and appreciate your wisdom.
Chris, whichever.
I was gonna say, it's been a pleasure working with you guys for the past 7 years. I know when we first started the group, I was asked to be on the group, and I'm thinking, oh, we got 2 doctors, a lawyer, right? I don't feel like I fit in. But we needed their expertise in setting up the organization from the beginning. That wasn't my expertise, it was their expertise. I'm a technical person, so I came in later, but it all together worked as a team to make this all work out. So it's been a pleasure to work with all different minds here and where we were from, where we're at.
I'm going to speak for Bubba because I have talked to him. And he had intended to try to make it today. But he wanted to let you know how much he has enjoyed most of the time. Sound like Bubba? Working with you, but truly, he appreciates it, that all that you have done. And he wanted to be here. And so hopes to see you out and about, and we hope to see him too, out and about. Thank you may not say it enough, but I do greatly appreciate your leadership and your dedication to this. And I remember when Ron Cox brought in Mr. Garza, what's his name, Garcia? Gonzalez. I knew it was a G. Joe Gonzalez. And we were quite 7 different entities when we started.
Appointed by 7 different council members.
And
They had 7 different opinions.
Somewhere there was wisdom in that. I'm not sure where.
Worked out well, didn't it?
It did. And you two were instrumental. I remember that day that we spent with him and how we learned about each other and how each other works. And we all committed that day to make this work. And you two were instrumental, and I appreciate it greatly. And I can go on, so I'm going to finish. Would anybody from the audience like to say anything? Because I know there are others here that have vested interest in this. So, yes, sir.
Well, I have a parting gift for you, and that
It's a new plan.
it's the plan. It's also a booklet from the Lauren Griffith Associate that they provided us when we evaluated them. And also, it's the HEMSAth plan from 1969.
Oh,
Which,
wow,
yeah,
you
I
talked
mean,
about that.
That was interesting.
I have it open to the page. Number 9 is a project to bury the utility lines. So-
May I read?
Yeah,
Power poles on Friendswood Drive should be moved and the lines run underground. A committee should begin work immediately to determine the cost to the city in making this change. Similarly, the lights along this 3 or 4 block area should be replaced with lights standardized for the community.
so we're carrying out the vision of our forefathers and mothers in Friendswood still. And we'll,
And we want it.
yeah,
And we want it. So,
share that with the newbies.
you got it. They're already very integrated into our group. Thank you.
So from my heart, thank you all very much. It was a delight to be part of this group.
Alton?
Well, yeah, don't ask a lawyer if he wants to say something.
Well, that's why I knew.
No, I'm just thinking back what Ron was talking about. We used to meet at my office, I think once a month, something like that. And we didn't have any money. We served at the pleasure of the council. As we discussed, we came up with some plans, an urban plan that the architect got a national award for. And when we were at the point of hoping to try to implement that, council dropped us in the grease, and that ended our group. And Brent Banfield came along. Remember the day he called me, and he was thinking about reviving the project, wanted to know if I'd be a part of it. I said, sure, but Brent is the one who really, really has made all this happen. Because it takes money. It's just simple as that. And we were talking about, it seemed like our first monthlies were around $35,000, $40,000, and now we're at like $90-something thousand dollars. Very impressive. And we did come from 7 different places, but we became one pretty quick.
We did.
And not that there shouldn't be discussion, debate on this board, but I don't think we ever had one vote that anyone voted nay on anything. And I think in a lot of reasons that is we've respected each other's opinion. And it's taken this board a long ways. And Scott, Chris, you're going to enjoy being on this board. I've been on a few boards, and this is one that I've enjoyed being on as much as anyone. I'm so sorry that Bubba couldn't be here today. Our hearts are certainly with him and a speedy recovery. But it's amazing how, to me, that some of the projects we had in mind, we've had great grants that were put together, and every time we'd get turned down, why? We're too affluent, we don't have the right transit authority sort of things. And then all of a sudden, what would happen?
Yeah.
We know what would happen. And then we get a grant. Well, those times aren't over, because I'm convinced God loves Friendswood. And
We could vote on that in this room right now. I think it would be unanimous.
but it's been a real pleasure to be a part of this. And you're going to do great things. You already are. But you're also going to really enjoy being on this board. And thank you for doing this. This was certainly unexpected, but very much appreciated.
Well, it's a very small token to tell you how much you appreciate. We just want you to remember us, because we'll always remember. Thank you. We are going to make a motion to adjourn so we can go enjoy the beautiful goodies that Letty put together out in the foyer. So do I have a motion?
Subject to getting a picture taken.
Well, yes, but we're gonna, you're right, we don't wanna miss a picture, so you two can't move.
So I move we adjourn.
All right, we got a motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Hammer that cow.
All right.
I
where's the
don't
picture?
have one. But anyway.
You want us to come up there?
Yes, please. We want you to come up here, please.